Welcome to Starbound, where every star tells a story. Today, humans will deal our alien foes a defeat that will alter their very identity. Also, check if you're subscribed, because if you're not, do it. It's free. But now, let's get into the story. The expansive view screen aboard the bridge of the ISS Magellan flickered to life, painting a breathtaking panorama of distant star systems. Gas giants swirled in mesmerizing patterns, their moons like glistening jewels scattered across the cosmos. At the heart of this celestial ballet, a yellow dwarf star bathed a cluster of rocky planets in warm light. "Commander Johnson, to the bridge," a voice crackled through the ship's intercom. A tall, broad-shouldered man with close-cropped hair and a face etched with the lines of experience strode onto the bridge. He took a seat at the command console, his eyes scanning the data streaming across the holographic displays. "Report, Mr. Chen," Commander Johnson addressed the ship's science officer. "Sir, we've confirmed the presence of a habitable zone within the Yerral system," Mr. Chen announced, his voice barely containing his excitement. "Preliminary scans indicate the third planet, Yerral 3, could potentially support life." The bridge fell silent as the crew processed the gravity of the discovery. Commander Johnson stood and approached the central holographic display, which now showed a detailed image of Yerral 3. It was a stunning blue and green orb with vast oceans and sprawling continents, a striking contrast to the barren worlds they had surveyed for years. "Magnify the view," Johnson ordered, his voice steady but tinged with awe. The hologram zoomed in, revealing lush forests, towering mountain ranges, and wide rivers snaking through verdant valleys. Clouds drifted lazily across the atmosphere, casting shadows on the landscape below. Mr. Chen continued, "Our bioscanners have detected a breathable atmosphere composed of 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, and trace amounts of argon and carbon dioxide. Temperatures range from -20 to 40 degrees Celsius, making it suitable for human habitation. We've also identified several large bodies of water, suggesting a stable hydrological cycle." The murmurs of excitement grew louder, spreading through the crew like a rumor spreading through school. For decades, humanity had been adrift, searching for a new home among the stars. Now, at last, they had found it. Johnson allowed himself a rare smile as he turned to face his crew. "This is it, gentlemen," Commander Johnson declared, his voice brimming with optimism. "Yerral could be our salvation." The bridge erupted in cheers. People hugged, clapped each other on the back, and even shed tears of joy. The moment was electric, charged with the promise of a new beginning. But beneath the jubilation, Johnson felt a flicker of caution. They were pioneers in uncharted territory, and the unknowns were vast and potentially dangerous. Johnson turned back to Mr. Chen. "Begin detailed environmental and geological surveys. I want to know everything there is to know about this planet before we make any decisions." "Aye, sir," Mr. Chen replied, already tapping commands into his console. "Deploying survey drones now. We should have comprehensive data within the next 12 hours. As the crew returned to their stations, their excitement tempered with the professional focus instilled by years of training. Johnson remained at the view screen, gazing at the distant world that could become humanity's new home. He silently vowed to protect this newfound hope, whatever the cost. "Unidentified ships approaching," the tactical officer shouted, his voice edged with alarm. His fingers flew over the console, bringing up detailed scans of the incoming vessels. "They're hailing us, sir." Commander Johnson's brow furrowed deeply. He had hoped to avoid contact with extraterrestrial life until humanity was better prepared, but it seemed their arrival in Yerral had not gone unnoticed. "On screen," Johnson ordered, his voice steady despite the rising tension. The view screen shifted to show the alien ships in greater detail. They were sleek and menacing, their hulls black and angular, bristling with weaponry that dwarfed anything in humanity's current arsenal. Pulses of blue and red energy glowed ominously along their sides. A chill ran down Commander Johnson's spine as he took in the sight. These were not ships designed for peaceful exploration. They were instruments of war. The weight of the encounter settled heavily upon him, knowing it could determine the fate of humanity's future in this new system. "Establish a defensive posture," Johnson commanded. "Shields up, weapons on standby, let's see what they want." The alien transmission crackled over the speakers, a guttural language filled with snarls and growls. The universal translator worked furiously, decoding the complex sounds into recognizable speech. A synthesized voice emerged, cold and commanding. "Greetings, Terrans," it boomed.
We are the Loppra, and this system now belongs to us.
Commander Johnson exchanged quick glances with his officers. The Loppra. The name was unfamiliar, but their reputation was not. Reports from other colonies spoke of a species notorious for their aggression and territorial instincts. They had appeared so soon after humanity's arrival, it couldn't be a coincidence. "Open a channel," Johnson said, standing tall and resolute. He faced the view screen as a communication link was established, presenting the image of a leader unshaken by the threat. "This is Commander Johnson of the Terran vessel Magellan," he replied, his voice firm but diplomatic. "We have also laid claim to this system. We are prepared to negotiate a peaceful resolution." The response was swift and unequivocal. A barrage of energy blasts erupted from the Loppra ships, slamming into the Magellan shields. The ships shuddered under the impact, alarms screaming throughout the vessel. "They're attacking!" the tactical officer shouted. "Shields holding, but they won't last long." Commander Johnson gritted his teeth. Negotiation was clearly off the table. The Loppra were determined to take Yerral by force, and humanity had no choice but to defend their claim. "Return fire!" he ordered, his voice echoing through the bridge. "All batteries open fire!" The Magellan's weapons hummed to life, swiveling into action. They launched a volley of missiles and energy beams towards the Loppra fleet. Several enemy ships were struck, but their shields absorbed the majority of the damage, barely faltering. "Their shields are too strong," the weapons officer reported, frustration evident in his voice. "We're barely scratching them." The Loppra retaliated with another devastating attack, overwhelming the Magellan's defenses. The ship's shields flickered and then collapsed, leaving it exposed to the full fury of the alien onslaught. The bridge shook violently as energy blasts ripped through the ship's hull. Crew members were thrown from their stations, screams of pain and fear filling the air. Commander Johnson clung to his console, his knuckles white. The Magellan was dying, and he knew they had to escape before it was too late. "Abandon ship!" he ordered, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "All hands evacuate immediately!" As the order echoed through the ship's battered intercom, organized chaos erupted. Crew members scrambled towards escape pods, their faces pale with fear, but their movements disciplined. Years of training kicked in, ensuring a swift and efficient evacuation even in the face of imminent destruction. Commander Johnson, however, remained on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the view screen. The Loppra fleet was closing in, their victory assured. He watched as the enemy ships unleashed a final devastating barrage, reducing the once proud Magellan to a field of debris. With a heavy heart, he ejected from the doomed vessel, the escape pod hurtling away from the wreckage. As he looked back, he saw the Loppra ships swarming over the remnants of the Magellan, their victory complete. The escape pods scattered across the Yerral system, some landing on nearby moons, others drifting aimlessly through space. Commander Johnson's pod eventually reached the surface of Yerral 3, the habitable planet they had come to claim. He emerged from the pod to find a lush, verdant world teeming with life. Towering trees reached towards the sky, their branches laden with exotic fruits. Strange creatures, unlike anything found on Earth, roamed through the undergrowth. Despite the beauty of this new world, Commander Johnson's heart was heavy. He had failed in his mission to secure Yerral for humanity. The Loppra had triumphed, and he feared for the fate of his scattered crew. But he was not one to surrender easily. As he surveyed the unfamiliar landscape, a flicker of defiance ignited in his eyes. He would not let the Loppra victory stand. He would rally the survivors, rebuild their strength, and reclaim what was rightfully theirs. The humiliating defeat at Yerral had only fueled humanity's resolve. They had been caught off guard, underestimated by a ruthless enemy. But they had learned a valuable lesson. They had seen the Loppra's strengths and weaknesses, their tactics and technology, and they would use that knowledge to their advantage. Humanity was not defeated. They were merely delayed, and they would soon return to Yerral stronger and more determined than ever before. The Loppra would soon learn that they made a grave mistake in underestimating the resilience and ingenuity of the human spirit. The battle for Yerral was far from over. In the wake of the devastating defeat at Yerral, humanity licked its wounds and regrouped. The loss of the Magellan and the initial setback had been a blow to their pride and their plans for expansion. However, it also served as a wake-up call, a stark reminder of the challenges they faced in the vast expanse of space. News of the Loppra attack spread like fake news across Earth, galvanizing the global community. Governments and corporations previously focused on their own agendas united in a common cause. Resources were poured into research and development, accelerating the advancement of military technology. Within months, new warships emerged from shipyards around the globe, their hulls bristling with advanced weaponry and fortified shields. These vessels were faster, more agile, and far more deadly than their predecessors. Commander Johnson, having survived the destruction of the Magellan, was promoted to admiral and placed in charge of the newly formed Yerral reclamation fleet. He gathered the scattered survivors of the initial attack, seasoned veterans and eager recruits alike, and forged them into a formidable fighting force. Meanwhile, the Loppra, basking in their victory, had settled into Yerral 3, confident in their dominance. They had underestimated humanity's resilience and capacity for innovation. They believed that the Terrans, as they called them, were a primitive and insignificant species, easily brushed aside in their quest for galactic conquest. They were wrong. The Yerral reclamation fleet, having completed its exhaustive preparations, launched a surprise attack on the Loppra-occupied system. As the fleet emerged from hyperspace, the sleek, silver hulls of the Terran warships gleamed against the backdrop of the Yerral stars. The Loppra, caught off guard, scrambled to respond, their ships powering up weapon systems and forming defensive formations. Admiral Johnson stood on the bridge of the ISS Intrepid, his eyes fixed on the view screen. "All ships assume attack formation Bravo," he commanded. "Target their lead vessels and engage on my mark." The new Terran warships, each a testament to humanity's relentless innovation, moved with precision. They were equipped with experimental weapons, quantum disruptors capable of destabilizing enemy shields, and swarm drones, autonomous units designed to overwhelm with sheer numbers. The fleet's maneuvers were sharp, their strategies refined through countless simulations and war games. "Fire!" Johnson ordered. The space around the Intrepid erupted with energy blasts and missile trails. Quantum disruptors fired pulses of destabilizing energy at the Loppra ships, creating brief windows of vulnerability. Swarm drones zipped through the void, converging on targets with lethal efficiency. The Loppra, despite their initial shock, retaliated with their characteristic aggression. Beams of searing energy lanced out from the ships, striking the Terran fleet with devastating force. Yet they were unprepared for the humans' newfound determination and tactical ingenuity. Terran pilots, driven by a desire for vengeance and the knowledge that the future of humanity rested on their shoulders, executed daring maneuvers that put them at a strategic advantage. One Terran ship, the ISS Valor, executed a high-risk slingshot maneuver around Yerral 2's moon, emerging behind a cluster of Loppra vessels. Its weapons fired in unison, catching the enemy off guard and dealing significant damage. Scenes of such daring played out across the battlefield as Terran ships pushed their limits. The battle raged across the Yerral system, a swirling maelstrom of energy blasts, missile trails, and desperate maneuvers. The once peaceful star system became a theater of war, its celestial beauty marred by the scars of conflict. Planets and moons that had orbited in serene silence now bore witness to the cacophony of war. Inside the Intrepid, Johnson monitored the status reports flooding in. "Shields at 60%, reported Lieutenant Kara. "The Valor reports heavy damage to its starboard side, but is still operational." Johnson nodded, his mind racing through strategies. "Redirect power to forward shields. Target their command ship. We need to cut off the head." As the Intrepid and its squadron focused their firepower on the Loppra command ship, a colossal vessel bristling with weapons, the space around it ignited in a spectacular display of warfare. Terran ships launched coordinated attacks, their weapon systems synchronized to penetrate the Loppra defenses. The Loppra command ship retaliated fiercely, its return fire causing the Intrepid to shudder violently. "We can't take much more of this," Ramirez shouted over the din of alarms. Johnson gritted his teeth. "All powers to weapons, we finish this now!" The Intrepid's cannons glowed with overcharged energy, unleashing a concentrated barrage at the Loppra command ship. The quantum disruptors created a ripple across its shields, allowing missiles and energy beams to strike true. Explosions rippled along the Lopra's vessel's hull, and it began to fracture, and fires erupted from within. "Direct hit!" Lieutenant Kara exclaimed. "The command ship is breaking apart!" The Loppra fleet, witnessing the destruction of their command ship, descended into chaos. Their formation crumbled, and individual ships attempted desperate maneuvers to flee or fight back. The Terran fleet pressed their advantage, exploiting every weakness with ruthless efficiency. Admiral Johnson watched as the tide of battle turned decisively in their favor. The Loppra, despite their technological superiority, found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned. Human pilots utilizing daring tactics and innovative weaponry inflicted heavy losses on the alien fleet. On the bridge of the Intrepid, the tension began to ease as victory seemed within reach. "Admiral, the Loppra are retreating," Ramirez reported, a note of triumph in his voice. "Press the advantage," Johnson ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The final stages of the battle saw the remnants of the Loppra fleet scattering, pursued by Terran ships. The once proud alien armada was reduced to fleeing vessels, their confidence shattered. As the last of the Loppra ships warped out of the system, Johnson allowed himself a moment of relief. The Yerral system, bathed in the afterglow of battle, was theirs. Humanity had triumphed against all odds. Their victory was met with not only jubilation, but a respect for those on the ISS Magellan who had perished. In the aftermath, as repair crews began their work and the injured were tended to, Johnson stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. "We did it," he murmured, feeling the weight of the achievement. "We reclaimed Yerral." "Yes, sir," Ramirez replied, standing beside him. "We must stay vigilant. This is just the beginning." Johnson nodded. The battle for Yerral was over, but the war for humanity's place among the stars had only just begun. The Loppra, once a dominant force in the galaxy, had been humbled, their arrogance shattered by the humiliating defeat they suffered at the hands of the Terrans. In the aftermath of the battle, the once triumphant Yerral system lay in a state of uneasy calm. Debris from destroyed vessels, both Terran and Loppra, drifted through space, a stark reminder of the fierce conflict. Amidst the silence, a delegation of Loppra leaders, their pride shattered, approached the Terran flagship under a flag of truce. Their faces, once etched with arrogance, now bore expressions of humility and respect. The Loppra had underestimated the humans, dismissing them as a fledgling species unworthy of serious consideration. But the Terrans had proven them wrong, demonstrating a resilience and ingenuity that surpassed all expectations. Admiral Johnson, flanked by his senior officers, met with the Loppra delegation on neutral ground, a barren asteroid chosen as the site for their negotiations. The asteroid's surface was rough and uninviting, reflecting the tension that hung in the air. The location, devoid of any life or comfort, was a fitting backdrop for the gravity of the discussions that were about to take place. The Loppra leader, a grizzled veteran named Kriga, stepped forward. His scales, once vibrant and imposing, now seemed dulled by the weight of their defeat. His voice, though still guttural and harsh, lacked its former arrogance and command.
"We have learned a valuable lesson,"
Kriga began, his eyes locked onto Admiral Johnson's.
"We have underestimated your species. We believed you to be weak, but you have proven to be strong and resourceful."
Admiral Johnson stood firm, his expression impassive yet resolute. "You made a grave miscalculation," he replied evenly. "You attacked us without provocation, seeking to claim what was not yours. You paid the price for your aggression." Kriga lowered his head in a gesture of submission.
"We acknowledge our mistake,"
he said, his tone heavy with regret.
"We seek peace with your species. We desire to establish a mutually beneficial relationship."
Johnson considered Kriga's words carefully. He knew that the Loppra were a proud and warlike race, but he also sensed the sincerity in Kriga's plea. This humiliating defeat had clearly impacted them deeply, possibly fostering a genuine desire for change. After a moment of silence, Johnson spoke, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "We are willing to consider your proposal," he said, "but understand this. We will not tolerate any further aggression from your kind. Any attempt to violate our territory or harm our people will be met with swift and decisive action." Kriga nodded solemnly.
"We understand,"
he said.
"We will abide by your terms.
The negotiations that followed were long and arduous, conducted in a makeshift meeting room carved into the asteroid's surface. Representatives from both sides huddled around a rough-hewn table, hashing out the details of a treaty that would dictate the future relationship between their species. Heated debates flared as both parties worked through their grievances and demands, but mutual respect gradually replaced the initial hostility. Over several days, the outlines of a treaty took shape. The Loppra agreed to withdraw from Yerral and recognize humanity's claim to the system. In return, the humans agreed to share some of the system's resources and establish diplomatic relations with the Loppra. Provisions were made for scientific collaboration, cultural exchanges, and mutual defense pacts, laying the groundwork for a fragile but hopeful peace. When the treaty was finally signed, it was a momentous occasion. The leaders from both sides stood and exchanged formal gestures of respect, acknowledging the significance of their newfound accord. The treaty was a victory for humanity, a testament to their resilience and determination. They had faced a formidable enemy and emerged victorious, earning the respect of a race that had once considered them insignificant. The humiliating defeat at Yerral had ultimately served as a catalyst for humanity's rise to prominence on the galactic stage. It had forced them to confront their weaknesses, to innovate and adapt in the face of adversity, and it had taught them a valuable lesson: never underestimate the power of the human spirit. As Admiral Johnson watched the Loppra delegation depart, he felt a mix of relief and cautious optimism. The road ahead would not be easy, but for the first time there was a glimmer of hope for a peaceful coexistence. He turned to his officers, a sense of resolve settling over him. "We've won a great victory today, but our work is far from over," he said. "We must remain vigilant and continue to build on what we've achieved. The future of humanity depends on it." The officers nodded in agreement, their expressions reflecting a shared sense of purpose. Together they had faced the darkness and emerged stronger. The battle for Yerral was over, but the journey toward a brighter future had just begun. The devastating defeat at Yerral had ignited a newfound urgency in humanity. No longer content with mere survival, they embarked on a bold initiative to transform the Yerral system into a formidable military stronghold. Utilizing the system's abundant resources and fueled by a desire to deter future aggression, they constructed sprawling shipyards, orbital defense platforms bristling with advanced weaponry, and vast training facilities for the burgeoning space fleet. Yerral 3, the once pristine, habitable planet, became the heart of this military complex, its surface dotted with barracks, research labs, and simulation arenas where pilots honed their skills in virtual combat scenarios. The lush forests and exotic creatures gave way to a landscape of gleaming metal and disciplined order, a testament to humanity's determination to protect their hard-won victory. News of Yerral's transformation spread throughout the galaxy, a silent declaration of humanity's strength and resolve. The Loppra, still licking their wounds from their defeat, watched with a mixture of awe and trepidation. They had learned to respect the humans, their former arrogance replaced by a grudging admiration for their resilience and ingenuity. But the Loppra's troubles were far from over. Their weakened state, exposed by their defeat at Yerral, had made them a target for other predatory species in the galaxy. The Kriegs, a reptilian race known for their ruthlessness and insatiable hunger for conquest, saw an opportunity to expand their empire at the Loppra's expense. The Kriegs launched a surprise attack on Loppra territory, their vast armadas swarming across the stars like a plague of locusts. The Loppra, their military might severely depleted, fought bravely but were hopelessly outmatched. Their pleas for help echoed through the galactic network, a desperate cry for aid in their darkest hour. The message reached Yerral, where Admiral Johnson and his advisors debated their response. Some argued for caution, fearing that intervening in another alien conflict would drain their resources and leave them vulnerable. Others, however, saw an opportunity to solidify their alliance with the Loppra and further establish humanity's presence on the galactic stage. After much deliberation, Admiral Johnson made his decision. He ordered the Yerral fleet to mobilize. Their destination? The Loppra homeworld, now under siege by the Kriegs. As the Terran warships warped into the Loppra system, they were met with a sight that chilled their blood. Krieg vessels swarmed through space, their energy weapons blazing as they bombarded the Loppra defenses. The once proud Loppra fleet, reduced to a shadow of its former glory, struggled to hold back the tide of invaders. The arrival of the Terran fleet, however, changed the equation. The Kriegs, caught off guard by this unexpected reinforcement, found themselves facing a new and formidable enemy. The battle that ensued was a maelstrom of energy blasts, missile trails, and desperate maneuvers. Terran and Loppra ships fought side by side, their combined firepower pushing back the Krieg onslaught. Admiral Johnson aboard the Intrepid directed the battle with his usual calm efficiency. He had studied the Krieg tactics and technology, identifying their weaknesses and exploiting them ruthlessly. The tide of the battle began to turn. The Kriegs, their initial advantage lost, found themselves on the defensive. Their ships, once seemingly invincible, were now falling prey to the coordinated attacks of the Terran and Loppra fleets. The Krieg commander, a cunning strategist named Zarkon, watched the battle unfold with growing alarm. He had expected an easy victory against the weakened Loppra, but the unexpected arrival of the Terrans had thrown his plans into disarray. Zarkon, a master of deception and manipulation, attempted to sow discord between the humans and the Loppra. He broadcasted messages claiming that the humans were secretly plotting to seize control of the Loppra homeworld once the Kriegs were defeated. However, his attempts at subterfuge failed. The bond between the humans and the Loppra, forged in the crucible of battle, proved to be stronger than Zarkon had anticipated. Admiral Johnson and Kriega, the Loppra leader, had developed a mutual respect for each other, recognizing that their shared enemy posed a greater threat to any potential differences between their species. The final blow came when a Terran pilot, utilizing a daring maneuver, managed to disable Zarkon's flagship. The Krieg commander, realizing that defeat was inevitable, ordered his remaining forces to retreat, leaving the Loppra homeworld in the hands of its defenders. The victory was celebrated throughout the Loppra system, a testament to the power of unity and cooperation. The humans, once seen as invaders, were now hailed as saviors, their bravery and selflessness earning them the gratitude and respect of the Loppra. In the wake of the Krieg invasion, the alliance between humans and Loppra grew stronger. They established joint patrols to safeguard their borders, shared technological advancements, and engaged in cultural exchange programs. The Yerral system, once a battleground, became a symbol of hope and cooperation. It was a place where two different species, once locked in conflict, had learned to coexist and thrive together. The humiliating defeat at Yerral had not only transformed humanity into a formidable military power, but also paved the way for a new era of interstellar diplomacy. The humans had proven that they were not just conquerors, but also peacemakers, capable of forging alliances and building bridges between different worlds. Their victory over the Kriegs, alongside the Loppra, solidified their position as a major player in the galactic arena. No longer underestimated or dismissed, humanity had earned its place among the stars, a testament to their resilience, ingenuity, and unwavering spirit.